And welcome to the Skolo Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning, okay? So if you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe, okay? Just go to the bottom of the video that you're watching right now. There'll be a red button that says subscribe. Just smash that button and subscribe so that you'll be notified every time we have a new video that we release on this channel. We generally release videos every single week, okay? So on a Saturday around this time, around lunchtime South African time, we will be releasing a new video. We make videos on everything from web programming to Python development to e-commerce development. You're going to find something that is suitable for you if you're interested in learning a bit of technical development and sort of upskilling yourself and learning how to do things for yourself that you would otherwise pay somebody else a whole lot of money to do for you. All right. Now, just to get through the admin stuff of the video, under the video that you're watching right now, if you look at the bottom, there is that description panel, okay? There will be a show more button underneath there. Just click that button and open up the description, okay? I'm going to put in the description of this video every single link that I talk about. So if I say the link is going to be in the description, you're going to find it in there, okay? And I will also put timestamps in the video so that you can jump ahead to any part of the video that you want to watch and you don't have to watch the entire video. You can just skip through and go through the sections that interest you, okay? And at the bottom of the description panel, we also have links to our social media. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube. I mean, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, every other channel that we've got. And we've got also a channel on Medium where we write up the articles that we're talking about. We'll write them in sort of like a format that you can read through and get the code. And I think for this video as well, we will have a code available on on GitHub. All right, so let's get started. In this video we're going to be doing Twitter. All right, we're going to be automating our Twitter, and I think we'll do a series of videos because what we're going to be teaching is going to take a bit of time. All right, so automating your Twitter can be in many formats, and I've done a lot of Twitter automation videos on this channel, but this is going to be slightly different. I'm going to take it to another level here, okay? I want to take it to a professional level where you're going to write a Python script that you're going to switch on and leave it on autopilot, and it's gonna follow people, it's gonna retweet, it's gonna like stuff, it's going to tweet things, and you can leave it running for like 6 months and just grow your Twitter account on autopilot. Okay, so we are gonna be like the heroes of Python right now on this channel, and we're going to show you how to do all of that, and we're going to do all of that legally. All right, so we're not doing any web scraping or any stuff that Twitter is going to ban your account on, okay? So we're going to be following the Twitter official API, all right? So this is API that Twitter itself released and makes available to the public to use, all right? And we're going to use that API to do all of this stuff. So everything is perfectly legal within the Twitter limitations and what Twitter allows you to do, okay? So I'm going to take you through what we're going to be covering today, and there's a bit, okay? So this video is all about fully automating your Twitter with Python. This is the first video in the series. We're probably going to do more than one video because there's a lot to learn, and I don't want this video to be too long, and by too long I mean like 10 hours, okay? So our videos are generally around an hour, 2 hours long, but I'll see how short I can make this one for today so that I don't bore you to hell, okay? And so what we're going to cover in this lecture, and maybe the next lecture specifically, is there's a couple of things you need to do when you want to grow your Twitter account. And I get clients all the time that tell me they want to build a community or community building. I want to grow my following on social media. How do I do that? And you're going to get answers like, well, you got to post consistently. Or you're going to get answers like, oh, you got to have good, interesting content. You're going to get all sorts of answers which don't really help you in actually growing your community. In this video, in this channel, on Skolo Online, I'm going to give you actual practical tips. I'm going to even give you the code to go grow your Twitter account on autopilot, okay? Number one, we're going to have to get the Twitter credentials because we are going to be using the official Twitter API. So we're going to cover that definitely in this video, right? Then the next thing that you're going to do is to schedule regular tweets. And I'm going to give you some tips around the kind of tweets you want to schedule on a regular basis. And you can get the content ahead of time, and you can put it in your Twitter program, and then you can have those tweets go out on a scheduled basis. And we've done some of these types of scheduling tutorials in the past. It's going to be pretty similar to that as well. But something that we're going to do that's different in this video that we haven't done before, all right? We're going to write a Python script to follow people on Twitter. Do you know what is the most effective way to get followers on Twitter? Believe it or not, it's not great content, all right? It is to follow other people. When you want to grow your Twitter account, you follow other people. On average, between 10 to 20% of people that you follow will follow you back. So if you follow like 100 people, you will get like 10 to 20 people that will follow you back, depending on how interesting your channel is, okay? So if you just followed people, you're gonna get 10% of them to follow you back, and you can grow your account that way. Of course, the ones that don't follow you back, after some time, you can just unfollow them and then follow more. So if you use this strategy, and Twitter gives you up to 5,000 people that you can follow before you cannot follow any more people. So obviously there are limits to everything. If you can follow up to 5,000 people, if you think about it, within the the general stats, you should have between 500 and 600 of those people following you back. Okay, no, between 500 and 5,000, between 500 and 1,000 following you back. Okay, so that is free followers without even writing any content. They will follow you without even checking your content out. And then obviously then you're going to do the content stuff, and then you're going to So we're going to cover pretty much everything. And obviously the ones that don't follow you, you unfollow them and you repeat the process. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. And then there'll be some other stuff as well around retweeting things, because that's also very, very important. When you retweet important content, like, I don't know, let's say you're following News 24, right? And News 24 have a nice article that people want to read. People are not following News 24, but you retweet News 24, and you put in some hashtags in there, and you can reach a bigger following. People see that, they follow you, and you can grow followers by retweeting other people's content, okay? So within the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna write code for you in Python using the Twitter API that shows you how to follow people, how to retweet stuff, interesting stuff within your niche. Obviously, you're not retweet everything under the sun, because you want the right people following you, all right? So you're gonna retweet things under your niche. You're gonna follow people that are within your niche as well, and then you're gonna grow your following. And then I think we're gonna end up with the posting, because we've done a lot of this in the past. So I think I wanna leave this code right to the last tutorial. And today I'm definitely gonna start with the code for following other people, okay? So let's get started. Before you can do anything, you need to get your Twitter API keys. And I think there's like tons of videos on YouTube how to do that. But because you're on my channel today, I think I have to like show you how to do it on my channel, so that you don't have to go to somebody else's video. So obviously, if you're on your Twitter account, and I'm going to use this careers portal, is one of our internal Twitter accounts that we've got. And yes, we are going to build a website that is called Careers Portal, probably on this channel, but I'll let you know. Keep watching, subscribe, so that you find out if, how we're going to do this later in the future. Okay, no, this is not Careers Portal. No, what I want, okay, we have already built Careers Portal on this channel. What I'm looking for is, if I go to the profile of this is freelance jobs, okay? So we are gonna build a freelancing marketplace on this channel, on this YouTube channel. And I've already got the Twitter account for it, so I'm gonna start working on growing this Twitter account so that I can build a community around it. You can see I created this account like a couple of months ago, and in February, and I already got 50 followers, and I hardly ever do anything with this. So I'm gonna start creating content for this, so I can start growing this following, so that by the time I build my website, I've got some sort of community behind it already, okay? So now what you gotta do is you need to log into your Twitter account. So make sure you're logged in, all right? Because this works when you're logged in already, because when you go to the developer portal, they'll need to know which account to associate it with. So when you're already logged into your Twitter account, you're gonna go to a blank page, and just Google for Twitter, Twitter developer API. Okay, so I've done this a couple of times this week, so it's quite fresh. And what you're looking for is this developer.twitter.com. okay, so I will try and link this as well in the description below, but I also want to show you how to find it yourself. So this is how you get here. And when you get here for the first time, if you don't already have Twitter API keys, you will see a button at the top there that says apply, which means you're going to apply to Twitter to get a developer account, which means that you have a separate account over and above your current Twitter account, which is this one. The developer account is specifically created for people that want to use the API to write code just like us, because we want to automate stuff, because we are Python stars. Okay, so what we're going to do here is make sure that the account that you want the application to be for is the one which is highlighted over there. All right, so that's why you need to be logged into the account when you do this, especially when you've got multiple Twitter accounts. You need to make sure you're applying for the correct Twitter account. Then when you get here, you just do apply, and it immediately takes you to the portal here. Now, there's a couple of things that happen here. When you're not applying for a Twitter developer account, you obviously want to get it as quick as possible. And there's two things that can happen. When you apply, you can either get your keys right away, or it's going to tell you to go, it's going to write an email and say, oh, there's going to be an application. Please give us reasons why you need this and da-da-da-da. And then there's like a whole complicated thing that takes 1 or 2 days to get through, even though even that's automated. But there's a faster way to get your keys right away if you just tell them that you're a student and you're learning and you're not really building anything for users. You're just doing this for yourself. This is for your own personal use. Then you're more likely to get your Twitter API keys immediately without a complicated process. So click there, that button that says apply for a developer account, and it'll take you to this page. And when you get over here, all right, you need to don't click professional, don't click academic, click hobbyist, because the moment you click professional, it's going to take you through the process of applying the long winded route. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm a hobbyist and I am just exploring the API. Okay, and I'm going to say get started. Then immediately it's going to take me through here. And I'm going to say, this is the account I'm doing this for. What's my name? My name is, I don't know. I'm going to put in my name there, Bertha. Okay. Kokong. I'm based in South Africa. Let's look for this under there. I have no experience. Okay. Want updates? Nope. And when you get here in your words, how will you use the Twitter API or Twitter data? Okay, so in here, the keywords that you want to use here is that you're exploring, you're testing, you're playing around with the API, you're learning, okay? Because you are watching this video, then this would be true, okay? You wouldn't be lying about that, okay? So I am testing the API. The API, I want to play around with it and see what it can do. I am interested in being able to automate my own Twitter account. See what is possible with the available API that Twitter with available API. I would like to read my tweets, send tweets to my own account, both text and image tweets, whatever. So as long as you no longer see red, you can continue. You have to write some good content so that they can understand the specifics. Are you planning to analyze Twitter data? Specifically say no. Will you be using to tweet? Say no. Will you be displaying tweets? Say no. Say no. Basically, you want to answer no to every single question here, all right? Because when you just answer yes, they're going to take you through the long application process, okay? So just say no and move on. Even though you are going to do it, I know, because why else do you need the API in the first place? So this actually is quite silly questions. But nonetheless, intended use, that's all right. Go to next. And then you have to read the developer process, agreement process. So obviously, I can't read this with you on this channel because it will take a bit long. And I've already read it a couple of times because I've done this many, many times. I do this all the time for myself and for clients. So you must read it so you know what you're agreeing to. But I've pretty much already read it. So I'm going to click continue and I'm going to submit. All right. Time to verify your email. Okay, so what you got to do there is that you need to go to your mail account and click on that, look for that email from, so this is my email account, and then click on the verification link. Okay, so what has happened is I have gotten the email, I've clicked on it, and basically this is what was returned from Twitter. My application has been received, and it's going to go under review. Okay, probably it's going under review because I make so many of these applications. And if you're doing this for the first time and you just do what I like, the steps that I followed, most of the times they will not take it under review. I think they take it under review if you're using it for professional purposes, or in my case specifically, probably my IP. I don't know what gave me away, but I do these applications all the time, so it's gonna go under review. But a review is not a problem. What happens with the review is you will get an email from Twitter. So here's my email address. So there's nothing here now, but you'll get an email from Twitter, and they will ask you to answer those questions again. So the questions they ask, what are you going to use the application for? You just have to just reply, like I said, just say, you know what, I'm just using it for learning. I'm planning to, and then maybe attach a project or whatever, maybe and don't tell them that you're going to be using a Python Tweepy API. All right, just say you're going to be using this API on their website. All right, and go through their documentation. And so if you click on the documentation here, copy some example code, mention that you're going to be working with, what they recommend is the work of, and I'm going to have to install it now, Postman. Okay, just mention in there that you're going to be using Postman to test the application, and you just want to see how it works. Okay, and then you shouldn't have a problem. Okay, which takes me to the next step, which is Postman. Okay, so right now, the next thing that you got to do, so while we're waiting for this takes about 2 or 3 days. They'll write an email within the day. You respond to it. They'll ask you again, and then you respond twice. I've had to go through 2 processes before they approve it. But what you need to do in the meantime, go to Postman. All right, Postman download. And you're going to download this application. Okay, you can work with it off the internet, but it's much better for you to download this. Okay, so if you go to download Postman, on the page here, you will see this button that says download app, and it will sense which operating system you're on. If you're on Windows, it will allow you to download the app for Windows. And if you're on Mac, it will allow you to download the app on Mac. And I've already downloaded the Postman app, so I'm not going to download it again. So what you need to do is download it the first time. And once you've done that, when we get the Twitter API, we'll be able to, directly link it to Postman so that we can get the collection directly inside of Postman. And then we don't have to rewrite all the URL parts ourselves, especially for the testing. And Postman really simplifies the process of testing APIs. So do that in the background. You can pause this video now, do that, and then come back once you've done that. Okay, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to close Postman, and I'm going to go back to the development documentation. Okay, so if you're on the development documentation page, if you want to remember how I got here, I will put this in the link below, but you basically go to developer.twitter.com. all right, so over here you will see developers portal. All right, and then you will say at the top there where it says doc, just click documentation. Okay, then it will take you to this page. So over here, there are different types of API. You've got the Twitter API, the ads API, the websites, and the developer lab. So what you want is the Twitter API. And if you look at the left to the left here, you also have the same options. Okay, so click on the Twitter API because that's the one we're going to be working with. And if you look also on the navigation panel on the left, you've got different versions of the API. The way the API works is you've got the new version, which is version 2. And this is the one we're going to be using for following people and for retweeting and for doing a lot of the interesting stuff. Probably this is why they're always wanting to approve now, because the API has evolved so much that it's definitely opening up room for abuse, because now you can follow people automatically, you can do all sorts of things, and they want to really find out what you want to use the API for. And if you scroll down, there was the enterprise version, all right, and we're not doing the enterprise version, so you can just skip that. And at the bottom, there's a premium version, which our companies pay for to be able to search through the API Twitter database. For example, people that are doing research on, the training models for sentiment analysis, all of that sort of data analysis stuff. They probably pay to be able to search bigger data volumes and stuff, because the one we're using now is just for individuals, and you can't search more than 100 records at a time, so you can't even use it if you want to do things like testing for if you want to train models and things like that. But I don't know why they take us through this whole approval process in the first place, considering that the API is so limited in what you can do with it, and they can control abuse but anyway, that's how it is. And then the bottom part is the standard version 1. Okay, the standard version 1 is the older version, and if you read the documentation, they're going to be over time, they're going to sort of like, they want people to sort of migrate from the standard version into the version 2. They're going to sort of like, discontinue this over time, but it still works, and you can still access it by accessing version 1 of the API. But I'm going to show you code for both version 1 and version 2, because I still think version 1 is best when it comes to actually creating tweets. Okay, so I still use by the way, I won't be using the API directly. I'll be using Tweepy, but it works with the API. So you have to understand the API, how it works, and what Tweepy is actually doing. Don't just use Tweepy blindly. But Tweepy has got both the version 1 and the version 2 as well. And even when I use Tweepy, the version 1, it's really best for posting stuff, and images and stuff. It still works better that way. And then the version 2 is really great for searching, for finding out when you got mentions on Twitter, like you want to know people are mentioning you, especially if you're a business. You want to be able to, and I'll do that towards the end. In the next coming weeks, I'll do a tutorial on being able to search the Twitter API for like when you're being mentioned, when you got mentions on the internet, when people are following, when people are talking about a certain topic, and you can search for it. And it's a good way to generate leads, because you can search for when people are asking for recommendations about stuff, and then you can immediately be the first one to respond, and things like that. And you can grow your business via the Twitter API. I think what they've done is amazing, upgrading it into the different version, but it's going to take a while to get to the code that we're going to end up with. But let's get started today without further ado. Okay, so the next thing that I need you to open, obviously if you click the get started button, let's do this first quickly. Let's do the get, and then you'll see about the Twitter API. The first thing that I want to show you is obviously I want to go through the limitations, or sort of like what you call, how much, the allowances, I think that's very important, and you need to understand this very early on. And I'm not sure how to get to that from here. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to Google for it. So I'm going to just say Twitter API limits, limits, whatever. And let's see, limit allowance, it takes us there, rate limits. Okay, so this is what I want to see. So I'll also link this in the description below, because I think this is very important. As much as you got the Twitter API and whatever code you're going to be writing, and even if you follow the code that I'm going to leave on this channel, and I'll make it available on GitHub as well, is that there is going to be a rate limit. And the rate limit is basically around a 15-minute window. So every 15 minutes they will reset. Okay, so within 15 minutes, you can look up 900, up to 900 API requests for looking up, for timelines, for searching. You can search up to 180 different searches within a 15-minute window, which is reasonable for an average person. For what we're doing, if you're going to build an app for multiple users, obviously these limits are not going to work for you. So if you're building like a production app, or you're building a and you might want to go for the paid version, which will have higher limits. But even if you're developing an app that maybe will be paid in the future, you can start with this, and you'll be using yourself as a test subject. So these limits are going to be sufficient. And if you're going to count tweets, lookups, manage tweets, followers, follow people, all, if you're not follow people, for example, that's 50. So you can only follow 50 people within a 15-minute window, and this is the code we're gonna write today. So this is very, very important not to reach this limit. Of course, the API won't allow you to pass the limit, but you don't want to be hitting the limit every time, because if you keep hitting the limit every time, you're gonna stand the risk of getting your API keys revoked. And then you're going to go through another process of trying to get that unblocked. You might even have to just get a new Twitter account for that. So don't go over the limits. Try and keep it to this. And even within 50 users every 15 minutes, Twitter has reduced again significantly the number of people you can follow. So within a day, the total you can follow is, I think, 400. 400, yes. So within a day, you can follow up to 400 maximum people. It used to be 1,000. It was even higher in the past, in the good old days. You could follow like 1,000 people, like follow for the whole day. And I don't think people were complaining if you were following them, because they can just like ignore you. But I don't know. Twitter is becoming a bit sneaky these days, because now they're not, because maybe they figured out that people are growing their account that way, and they'd rather you pay them to grow your account via them advertising your account. And trust me, I tried the Twitter advertising route, and it's not worth the effort. It's just better for you to do it the old-fashioned way and follow people and get people to follow you back, okay? And so there are limits. So that's what I wanted to show you. I will link this in the description. And once you've done the rate limits, then you're gonna go to the get started. All right. So when you get to the get started, you basically want to click on, where is it? Maybe it doesn't allow me to do this yet because I don't have my API keys. It can sense that I'm not approved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Twitter, and I want to change this account to this one, which is approved for Twitter. And I'm going to refresh this page already. And then I'm going to try and go back here. I'm going to try and refresh this page. And then I'm going to go to, so I'm now this person over there. Then I want to go to, the documentation. And I want to go to get started. And then when you click on get started, basically get started with the Twitter API. All right, get started there. Oh, there's so many get started buttons. Okay, version 2. Let's go to version 2 because that's the API we're going to be working with. All right, so let's go to tweets, for example. And let's just pick the first one, tweet lookup, okay? Because what I'm trying to find here is I'm trying to find the Postman link, okay? So yes, so once you okay, so maybe you need to go specifically to the API version 2, which is over here, and then you can pick any one of the APIs, and then you'll see there's a quick start button, a sample code button, and a run in Postman. So you want to click run in Postman button. And once you click the run in Postman button, you'll be taken to this page which shows you now the sort of the curl version of the request that you would need to be making towards the API. But what's even amazing that Twitter has done now is that you can click on that button, run in Postman, and you can get the full Postman collection inside of your Postman account. So what I want you to do is that you've already downloaded Postman like I asked you to. Just create an account on Postman because you need to have a profile on Postman, and then open the Postman inside of your personal computer, the actual Postman. Then you can click this button, run in Postman, and you'll see the different versions of, you can either do this on the web or the Mac, or in my case the Mac. So I want to do it on the Mac because now I've already downloaded it. And what it will do is that it will take this entire collection and it will add it to your Postman. So you can pick your workspace, or if you don't have this, you can create a new workspace and you can import, and it will import all the API routes and code, all the Postman routes or API routes inside of your Postman account, okay? So you've done that. It will say collection successfully imported. That's very nice. So what you'll see here is that you'll see now Twitter API version 2 like that, okay? So I'm going to close that so that everything on this side is closed. And you'll see now, you see these API routes. They are the same API routes that you see over here, okay? So I'm going to close this version and close that window. And close, okay, I'm not gonna close that. Okay, so where's my, it's gone. Okay, so let's just open it again. Not Facebook, developers Twitter. I just want to get back to that page that we're on the documentation, and I want to go to the Twitter API documentation, and I just want to go to the version 2 so I can show you that when you're on version 2 over here, fundamentals, tweets, for example, you'll see here tweet lookup, manage tweets, timelines, all that. These are the same routes that are available inside of the API. I mean, inside of Postman, now that you've imported all of that. And if you go to tweet lookup, for example, here, you can look up a single tweet, okay? So if you want to look up a single tweet, you will see already that API path has been decided for you, like it's already been set. Okay, so the only thing you need to do here is to put in a tweet ID, and then it will look this up for you. So let's go to Twitter and find any tweet. I don't know. Let's pick this one, right? Let's pick this tweet. If you pick a tweet and you look at the top over there, this is the tweet ID, all right? So I'm going to copy this tweet ID and paste it over there, all right? Then I'm going to just run this, okay? But it's not going to run because I don't have my credentials. It's going to, actually it did run. because I think because I've already used this before and I've already added my credentials over here inside of the environment. Okay, so I already got this inside of the environment. But the first time you do this, it's not going to run properly because it's going to ask for credentials. So what you need to do for that day is you're gonna have to wait obviously for your credentials to be approved with Twitter, and once it's approved, you'll be able to go into the Twitter a dashboard. So in this specific case, I'm gonna go to developer portal. Okay, so in this specific case, this account has been approved, and you'll see over here within the developer portal you got projects and apps. Okay, so I've already created an app that's called Skolo Twitter. So in your case, you'll create a new project. Okay, so if you're here in projects and app, I can take you through the process of creating a new project, can't I? Let me see. All right, so let's try and see. Yeah, let's get it. Let's create a new app, because the first time you come here, you won't have an app. You'll have to create a new one. Okay, so it will immediately ask you to create a new app, and I can't show you what that looks like because I've got already an app. But you will go through the process of creating an app like this one. You will have to give your name an app. So let's say you call it Skolo Online. All right, and let's go to next. So once you created an app, and then it will give you the API keys immediately and the API secret. But before you do anything, you need the API key, the API secret, but you also need the access key and the access token. And you might as well get all of them now, right? So before I even get the API key and the API token, I'm going to go to, to the set app, all right, to get user tokens. And then over here at the bottom, you need to make sure you got read and write access. Okay, so actually I need to go back to the settings, and if you go to the bottom over here, you will see that the app permissions is read only. Okay, and read only won't allow you to do the things that we want to do, so you need to edit this read only and make sure that it's read and write. Okay, so you're gonna save that. Are you sure you want to change the permissions? Yes, I want to change the permissions. So that's good. If you want, you can add an icon over there. Then you've got read and write permissions. And then now you're on the settings side. You can go back to the access key side. All right. Now, the access key and access token gets showed to you once. Okay. So we saw them the first time. I didn't copy them. And I can't actually see them again. If I navigate from that page and I never copied them, I can't see them again. So I did that on purpose. What happens now is, I don't know why they are because I never copied them. I'm going to have to regenerate them. And every time I regenerate them, it revokes the old ones which are already created. So when you regenerate new tokens, the old ones will be revoked and they will no longer work. So if you already had them in an app using it and you come and you regenerate, you must make sure you re-update your app all the time. So I'm going to regenerate because I don't remember what they are. I didn't copy them. So yes, regenerate, and then it's going to show them to you again. It shows them to you only once, and I wanted to regenerate them only after I've changed the access permissions anyway. So that's fine. So the API key, just copy it like that. Click that copy button, and I'm going to need to go to my All right, so let's put this in here. So one thing I must mention is never show these keys to anybody, because if anybody who has access to your API keys will be able to write tweets on your behalf. It's like your password. Think of it as your bank account password and PIN. All right, you do not want to show them and share them with anyone, but I'll share them with you, but I will revoke them as soon as I'm done. So this is for educational purposes. So copy here API key and paste it inside of your code. Okay, so inside of your code, you're now writing code with me, creating a file called config.py. All right, and don't worry about the other folders. I'll go through them day by day as I go through this tutorial. Okay, so just do what I do for now, and that's sufficient for today's lecture. Just create a new file called config.py, and inside of that file, create these variables. API key exactly the way I have it, and I'll put this I'll put this inside of in GitHub, perhaps at the end of this, or not. I don't know. We'll see. This is simple. Maybe I won't put this on GitHub. You can copy and paste this. All right. Maybe I'll just do a quick gist. Yeah, maybe. So do the API key, copy and paste it there, and then you've got the API key secret. Copy that one, and paste it in there. All right. And then you've got the bearer token. That's also important. Say, yes, I saved them. You'll never see them again once you do that. All right. And then you need basically the bearer token and the access keys and access token. So the bearer token, I'm going to regenerate this one because I didn't copy the last one. So I'm going to regenerate it. And then I'm going to copy it there. And then I'm going to put the bearer token over there. All right. And then once I've done that, I'm going to go to the access token. Yes, I've saved this access token generate because we never had them generated. And then we've got the access token and the access token secret. Okay, so let's copy the access token over there. All right, let's paste that. And then the access token secret, let's copy that and let's paste that over there. All right, so the other thing that you need here is your directory, your path directory. This is very important because in our code we're going to be writing files and saving files because we need some sort of memory. And I don't want to use a database, okay, because I could use a database, right? But this is very simple stuff. I'm really just going to be recording. I want to be able to record the number of people that I'm following and put them inside of some sort of database because I don't want to follow the same person again if I've already followed them. I want to track how many people I've followed using the app. Okay, so I want to record every time I follow somebody to save their name somewhere. And I don't want to build a whole database. I don't want to go overkill and do like an SQL. I just want to save. So I'm going to save it in a JSON file. All right, and inside of that JSON file, it will just be like I'm going to create a new folder. So create a new folder called data. And inside of that folder called data, we're just going to save JSON files. That's going to be like a database. Okay, it's going to sort of be like a pseudo database and not a real one, but it will be sufficient for the purposes of what we're doing because we're not doing anything hectic, right? So so I need then to be able to write files and read files off of that, read those JSON and write those JSON files. So I'm going to be able to, I'm going to need to know where they're located on my computer. So I need the directory, and this is the full path directory to the project, okay? So you need to get the full path directory to where you're working from, okay? And how you do that, if you want to do that quickly, if I can show you quickly, is open a terminal window, all right? If you're working on Mac, open a terminal window and navigate to, you can navigate anywhere, it doesn't matter where you are. You can navigate anywhere on the terminal window. And then open a normal file directory, okay? So I'm going to start from home. And then navigate to where your files are saved. So navigate to this location where you're working from, okay? So navigate here inside of the file directory. So I know my stuff is saved in here, development, and it's saved under Skolo Twitter. So these are the same files in there. And you can just drag and drop any file, doesn't matter. Just drag and drop a file inside of your terminal, okay? When you drag and drop a file inside of your terminal, this is a nice tip for the future. You can thank me later, all right? You can copy this entire file path, okay? And when you copy this entire file path, it is going to be the absolute path to where the files are in that, to where that file is, okay? And that's a good way of finding the absolute path to your root directory, okay? So you can then paste it in there. Obviously, you don't want the absolute path to the file itself. You just wanted the absolute path to the directory. And I just want to save that in there so that every time we save files in this directory, we can use the absolute path, and then we don't have to retype it every time. We can just access this variable from inside of our config every time we need to access, and you'll see how useful it gets in the future. So once you've done that, save all of this, okay? Save all of this, and then we're gonna get ready to write our code, okay? So I've saved this, and then you won't see it again, and then it's gone. So this is basically all you need inside of your developer side. Now you're ready to write some code, okay? Now, let us go to our documentation, docs, documentation. Actually, you can just go there directly because we don't need this anymore. And let's go back to the Twitter API documentation, and then let us go to the version 2, the tweets. We're going to start with, actually, we're not going to start with tweets. We're going to start with users, right? So we need to follow users, right? So to follow users, this is the API, right? But I said in the beginning that we're going to use the Tweepy version to work through this, okay? So open Tweepy, and I will leave this in the description below, all right? So you can basically access the Tweepy documentation by going to docs.tweepy.org, okay? And I'll put this in the description as well of this video. And when you get here, this is basically what it looks like. You'll see towards the left, you've got the Tweepy API client, which is basically the version 1 the version 1 of the Twitter API. So the version 1 of the Twitter API is this one over here, this version 1 at the bottom. This is the one they're going to discontinue. So if you're using this Tweepy library, the API version, you must just keep in mind that at some point you're going to have to change this code because Twitter is going to discontinue this API. And but what's really nice is that they've got the client, the Tweepy client, which is the API version 2. All right. So the API version 2 is the new one, and it's the one we're going to be working with mostly. But I still have some code that I write in here that I think this works better. But I'll have them both, but just I'll keep an eye out because they did announce that they will discontinue that at some point, and they're sort of encouraging people to migrate from version 1 to version 2. Now in version 2, just click that button over there. The way we used to authenticate the user with the tokens to get the API class, we basically do the same thing, but within the version 2 of Tweepy, we're gonna get the client class. All right, so you can just like copy this code and for example replace the bearer token, the consumer key, the consumer secret, basically all of these except the wait on rate limit response, all of that I've left. So I'm just basically using all of the stuff to authenticate the user so that I can be able to continue with the code. All right, so I've got this code already written up, but I'll take you through it later. And then we're gonna go into the we want to be able to follow people. All right, so if we go to users, all right, follows, all right, follow user. All right, let's go to the top there. Let's go to the top. So all of this is also listed at the top here. So I'm going to try and search follow user. All right. So client follow user, this is what we want to use. And if you hover over it at the top there, it'll open up, like a dialogue where you can like read more about, how to use this code. All right. So basically you can just say, this is unfollow. Okay. So I don't want to use that. I want to follow. All right. So basically you can see that for you to follow a user, you need to say client follow user, and you need the target ID of the user. You need to know who you are following, all right? And how the hell would you know the target ID of the user? You need to get a user ID, right? So the first step is obviously we're gonna have to get the user ID, all right? And you can get a user ID of a user. I think if I go to Twitter, okay, actually we're gonna do it much simpler, and we'll use the API to get the user ID. So within the same API, at the top there is the let's see, users. Where are we? Within the same API, under users, user lookup. Where is it? User lookup. You can use this get user API. All right. So you can say client get user. All right. And you can put in the username. Okay, so not get users, just get user, get one user. Okay, you can put in the username of the user. All right, and then it will get you information about the user. So let's test that. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new file here, and I'm gonna call this file getuser.py. all right, and in this file I'm going to import Tweepy. That's the first thing you gotta do, because Tweepy is what we're using for everything. And then we need to first of all instantiate the client. So to do that, we need to just copy all of this at the top. All right. Then we need to say the client is equals to basically Tweepy client. We need the bearer token. We need the consumer key. All right. We need the consumer secret. We need the access token. We need the access token key. I'm going to delete everything else at the end there, right? And including that. And then this will give us the client. And then once we have the client, then we can use the client to do everything else that you want to do, all right? So instead of writing the code directly like that, I'm going to put it inside of a function, all right? So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put it inside of a function that I'm going to call get client. All right, and then I'm gonna put it in here, and then I'm gonna say return client, like that. So if I run this function, it will return the client for me. But obviously you can't have these as none. Remember, we have these saved inside of our config file. So I'm just going to like copy these like that. All right, I'll just show you what I want to do later here. Just make some space. All right, and at the top there we need to import config, because all of these variables are available in the config. And the reason why we write them in the config and we do it like this is so that when we either share this on GitHub or later on, we can share this file, and I'll share this with you without sharing the config file, and I can keep my secrets inside of the config file, and you can basically do the exact same thing, write the exact same code, and you only have to replace the config file with your own personal API keys and so forth. So basically we're going to be working from the config file. Okay, so we have to access the config file over there. So config dot, so I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to put it over in all of the ones, because all of these variables are inside of the config file. So paste that in there, paste that in there, paste that in there. All right, and then basically we need to say config.api key. So the bearer token, let's see, where's the API key? Consumer key, that's that one. The API key secret is a consumer key secret. All right, the access key, access token is that one, is the access token, and the access token secret is that one. All right, so you can actually remove that comma at the end, and then the bearer token is the one that comes at the top. So there you go. So you can delete that. So what this will do is that you import config at the top, it will get that config and it will return for you the client. Okay. Then what we actually want, what we're actually interested in is following a user. All right. But we can't follow a user until we get the user ID, because following a user requires a user ID. So we need to be able to get the user ID. So it will be easier to get usernames, because you can get usernames from Twitter. So let's say I've got this username. I don't know. I'm already following all of these. So let me try and find, let me explore a topic so I can find users I don't follow, right? So let me go to this guy, for example. So this guy follows me, but I don't follow them, all right? So, but I can get their username here. You see, this is their username, right? So that's the person's username. Okay, so I'm gonna just put it in here and say that's the username. So I wanna follow this user with that username, all right? So I'm gonna then go to my code. Where is it? I'm gonna go to my code and I'm gonna look for the follow user lookup. So I need to look up get user by username. Okay, so let's come back here and look at how this code works. So I can say the username is equals to, and I can use this to get the user information. All right. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna write another function. I'm gonna say get user info. All right. So to get the user info, we're gonna say get client. Client is equals to get client. All right. So what this does, it will run that function and return the client. And then we're gonna say client dot paste that get user. All right, client get user, and then in here we can say username is equals to, and then we can just like copy this and paste that in there. All right, client get user. So I'm gonna say the user is equals to that, and then I'm going to return the user. Okay, then after I've done that, I'm going to run this function and I'm going to say the user is equals to get user info. Actually, I'm going to say return the user dot data, because you have to get the data part of it. Okay, so I'm going to say get user info, and then let's try and print this, print the user. All right, let's try and print the user and see what happens. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Okay, so this function, we are importing Tweepy, importing config. We are creating the client at the top, returning the client. We want to get user info using the API here for getting the user info, and then we are going to then return the user data, and then we're going to then run that function to get the user info, and we're going to print the user to see what, because technically what we want is the user ID, so that we can use the user ID to follow that user. But you don't know the user ID, you know the username, because that's common knowledge. You can get anybody's username, but you don't know what their user ID is. So we're going to need to get their client info to get their user ID so we can follow them. So that's why we're writing this code. So I'm going to save all of this and I'm going to create a function called getUser inside of my, where I'm running my function. So I'm running my functions in here. Actually, let's put this next day over there. All right, so what's happening here? Broken pipe. So I just need to log into my VPS again. So don't worry about what I'm doing here. I just need to develop all right, so I need to just like create my environment. So what you need to do there is source. So I'm not going to take you through the whole process of like creating a Python development environment, making sure you know how to install libraries. I mean, I've done this so many times on the video. The only library you gotta install at this stage is Tweepy, so just make sure you install it. I've already installed it, and if you wanna know how to do these things, there's videos on my channel on how to get your Twitter environment ready. Check those ones out because we can just focus in this video specifically on working with the Tweepy or the Twitter API. So once we're here, we're going to I'm gonna go to actually where I'm working from, my working environment. So this is my working environment. You'll see developments for Twitter. This environment is the same one I have inside of my config file over here, So this is my working environment. I call it VPS directory, but it's my working environment so that I know how to access, how to get my files. All right. So once I'm here, what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna create a new file. And I'm going to call this file, what is it? What are we calling this file? Getuser.py. So I can paste all of this in there and run it, okay? So it's going to be nano getuser.py and paste all of that in there and then close it and then run Python getuser.py. Okay, let's hope there's no errors. And it's going to just return the username. Okay, so what I wanted was the user ID. So I think from the API, you're going to have to specific. Maybe let's not say user data. Let's just try and see if we just say get user and see what happens there. So let's do nano getuser.py like that. And let's just not say return user data. Let's just return the user. Okay. And then let's run it again. All right. So you can see it's got, yeah, there you go. It's got the response. Okay, inside of the response, there's a data and there is the user object, which has got an ID, a name, and a username. So you can see the person's username, you can see the person's ID, and you can see the person's name. All right, and this is what we want, the user ID. So why, and response.data should have given me this entire user object, but it only gave me the name. So that's weird. So let me do it like this. So let me say, I want to actually return still the user.data.id. All right. Let's try that. Okay. So let's nano that and come over here and say that I want the user data ID. All right. User.data.id. All right, so let's run this. There you go. So you can get the user ID that way, okay? But this is a bit of, so this is the one method of doing it, okay? The second method of doing it is using, I'm gonna show you now using the API, using this, what you call it, Postman, okay? So if you go to Postman and you look at through the parts over there, you have the user lookup. All right, so under user lookup, you can say get user by username. All right, so get user by username, you just need to put the username there and then it should give you the user information. So the username that we want is this one over here, Mahloza. We're gonna take this username and put it there and it will give us the user information. All right, so you're gonna send this user information and you see it gives us the same thing. So there are two ways to do it. You can do it using this or you can do it using the API. I've got a bit of a combination of both and I'll show you why, because obviously I want to automate this and I'm not going to be able to search one user at a time because I want to follow a lot of people at the same time. So I don't want to like search a user and I have to figure out what their username is. So what I'm going to do is this, and I'm going to show you a nice nifty trick. When you want to grow your Twitter account, you obviously want to be following people that are in your niche. So let's say in my specific niche, I want to follow Skolo Online's users. So what I did is that I would go to explore over there and search for the accounts which I know I want to follow the users of that account. I mean the followers of that account. So if I look for Skolo Online, for example, Skolo Online is an online learning platform. So I would assume that people that follow Skolo Online typically are people that are interested in learning. All right. So what I can do is that I can go to Skolo Online followers, people that follow Skolo Online, and I can follow these people one by one, follow them, right? But that will take time. So I want to write code to do this automatically. All right. So I need to be able to get all of these users of Skolo Online and then follow them one by one at a time, so that I can have them follow me back. So the next code that I'm going to show you helps you to do this. But obviously you're going to have to know a couple of users, and Twitter will block you as well if you just follow the users of one account every single time. So what you'd want to do is think about 10 to 15 different accounts of users that you would like to follow their users. So let's say I picked Skolo Online, right, is the first one, and then I get their username there, and then I go to my, my Postman, and then I get this user ID, all right, and then I write the user ID down, or in this specific case, we're gonna put it inside of a JSON object, okay? Then I'm gonna do the next one and say the next one that I wanna get the users of is, I don't know, UNISA, because the people that are following UNISA must be students, right? So I go to UNISA, and UNISA's got even more followers, and then I get let's say UNISA's username over there, all right, and then I go into this function, and then I replace that with UNISA, all right, I paste UNISA and I send it, and then I get the user ID, right, and then I record the user ID for UNISA and everything, and then I get the last one, I don't know, maybe get like 5 or 10 different ones, and then every day when we're following users, we'll alternate randomly between these people to follow different users of different accounts. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to create a JSON file. All right, we're going to create a JSON file, and this file, we're going to create it inside of the data. So inside of this data folder, you're going to create a new file. All right, and we're going to call this file to follow.json. All right, then to follow.json is going to be a JSON array. Remember, these JSON files are going to be like databases. Think about them as databases, and instead of like getting a whole professional database, you're going to save our information inside of a JSON file. So inside of this JSON file, we're gonna save the user ID, right? And we're gonna let's say we're gonna pick this user ID over here, and we're gonna save it in there. All right. And then what you need to do is that you need to then have like 10 or 20 different ones, because you want to have multiple accounts to alternate from, because you don't want to be following the same user ID. And inside of the Twitter documentation, if you read it, and I've read it, and I've read all of it, and I remember everything I've read, there is a place where they do mention that even though they give you these limits that they've specified clearly inside of their documentation, there will be monitoring abuse, and people that, for example, if you perform the same act on just one person, so if you just like following the account of just one individual within a month, you will also get into trouble. So what you want to do is to have variety, is to alternate between different accounts. Don't just follow users of just one account. So even though you have 50 people you can follow, they can't all be from one account. So maybe you want to alternate between different ones, 10 from this, 10 from that, 10 from there. Then the next thing you want to do as well is create another account, another file in here, all right, a new file, and we're going to call this file following, okay, because we want to keep track of the people that we're following. And over here, just leave an empty array, because we're not following anyone yet. And as we follow people, we're going to be saving the people that we followed in here, because we don't want to follow them again. So when we write code for following people, before we follow a person, we double check that they're not already in this list. So we have not already followed them. And if they are not on this list, then we can follow them, and then we add them to this list so that we don't follow them again. Okay. So these are the two files you got to create. And after you've done that, you're going to just save all of this. And because I'm doing this inside of my VPS, so inside of my VPS, if I list in here, I also have a folder called data. So I'm going to cd into data. All right, and then you'll see these files are also in here. So I already have a to follow file in here. All right, and if I open it, nano to follow, I've got 3 different accounts in here. I've got Skolo Online, so I'm going to be following users from Skolo Online. I'm going to be following users from Nakamoto Zatosh, which is also my other account. And then I'm going to be following users from Careers Portal. And these are all the user IDs. I've already collected them. I did that via Postman. It was quicker for 3 accounts. And you can do even up to 20 accounts using Postman. This is okay. Because once you get these users, you will then collect their followers. And then you're not gonna do that manually because their followers could be thousands or whatever. Then you don't. But this section I think you can do manually because you have to specifically think about the accounts you want to follow, the users of those accounts. Then I'm gonna close this. Oopsies. So let's not save this because I don't want to change that. Then the other one which says to follow. All right, to follow. I'm gonna just open this as well. Nano to follow, and nano following. All right, I want to open following.json, and you'll see over here there's already some in here because I've already, like I was testing this earlier on, so I've already followed some people. So this is not an empty list. There's some people I've already followed in here, and I was doing this just today, testing this, so it's not more than 10 people, right? So let's clear this and we are good to go. So we're going to cd out of data and we're going to clear this, and then I'm going to show you the code for doing this, which I have already tested. All right, so I'm going to just delete this file, move to trash, and to follow, and I'm going to delete this as well. All right, so I've got a file called it's called where is it? So let me just close everything here. All right, it is called follows.py. All right, so I've already written this code for you to save you time because I don't want to go through all of this in this tutorial, thinking around the code. The majority of the basics I've already covered, but I'll explain to you what this code is doing. Okay, so at the top over there, we're going to obviously import a Tweepy import config. That's similar to what we saw in the previous file that we just looked at now. We're going to import JSON, and we're going to import time because we want to have like a time between following people, because we don't want to follow people like every 2 seconds and have Twitter blocking us. All right, and then also we've got import JSON. This will be used to write and read JSON files, and obviously random. Okay, random, we're going to use a random library to randomly select between the list. That's why we're going to have a list of a lot of accounts that we're going to be following the users of those accounts. So we're going to then randomly select between those accounts every single time we are following, so that we're not following from the same account every time. That's why you have raised. And this file, this code, you can just copy and paste, and I'll put it on GitHub. This is just the code for reading a JSON file and writing a JSON file. That's all it does. Okay, so if you give it a file name, and this file name must be an absolute path to a file location with the name .json, and this is a JSON file. This function will read it with the encoding of UTF-8 for you. So if you've got emojis and stuff, it will read all of that. And if you want to write a JSON file, which means you've got like a Python dictionary, and you create a Python dictionary, you can then write it using this function into a location physically on your computer. This is why inside of our config, we've got this VPS directory, because we're going to be using this a lot to read and write our JSON. It's sort of like taking the role of our database, like I've already mentioned. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is to get client. So you remember this function. Okay, I won't go through it again. Now, following people, this is where the magic happens. Okay, now I've explained in principle what this function does, but I will explain it again. We need to have a JSON file of people that we are following. All right, because we need to know who we are following, so that every time we follow, we can add the new person we followed into that file, and also check that file to make sure that we are not following someone we have already followed. You understand? Then we need to have a to follow file, which is a list of of accounts we are going to be following from, and add as many accounts as possible so that you can randomly pick between this list every time you follow people, so that you don't end up following the same account all the time and get blocked by Twitter. Then the account we're going to be following, it will be a random choice of that, all right, which is what I've already explained. And then we need to get the user ID of that account, because we're going to use it to get their users and follow. So the last part of the API that I haven't showed you yet inside of Tweepy is the API for finding the users of a certain account. And it's also here, so you can go over there and say get users followers. Okay, so over here, this one there, client get users followers. This function gets you the followers of a user, but it returns up to 100 maximum. You can't get, I think, up to 100 maximum. I think you can get up to 1,000. So it will return up to 100 by default, and you can specify the number that you want, but the maximum you can get, I think, is 1,000 at a time. And 1,000 is a lot, so I don't see why anyone would need more than that. But basically, what you can do is you can get users that follow. You can get users that follow a certain account, and within that data that you get, there will be a user ID, because you'll get that user information in this format: ID, user, and username. So it will be a user object, a path, and a user object, and then you can then get the ID, name, and the username, and you really only want the ID, and then follow that ID. All right, so we're going to be using this path. Basically, you need to just specify the ID of that account, and this ID now will be these IDs that we've already saved over here under the people that we want to follow. All right, then what we're going to do now is we're going to get the client first, and then get the client just invokes this function at the top, and it saves it under variable client. And then we say client get user followers. Is this what I was explaining to you? Get users followers. Okay, so get users followers. And then you need the account ID. And this account ID is basically this ID, account ID, which we have from our to follow JSON file, which we've already created ahead of time. So you need to create this JSON file ahead of time. This file that I showed you earlier on, where you're going to select the account you want to follow and save their account ID information. All right, you need to keep that ahead of time, and then you're going to specify the maximum result. Okay, so this can be any number from 1 to 1,000. All right, 1,000. You can get up to 1,000. But if you're starting out, I highly recommend you start with a small number. Okay, start with a small number. But now, because I've already followed some of these people, I'm going to make this 20. I'm gonna make this 20. Actually, I'm gonna make this 15, because it's gonna bring back people that it already brought back, because I've already tried this, because every time it will go from the top and it will bring the same people. So maybe what you might want to do is, and I'm gonna give this as your homework, because obviously you're Python developers, try and call this function once a week, and then save these results inside of a JSON file. And I've given you enough code for you to figure out how to do that. And then every time you follow people, you basically just read off that JSON file, instead of having to call people, to call every time different people, because otherwise you're going to hit the rate limit very quickly. So the rate limit is the number of times you ping the API. If you ping the API every time just to call 10 people, and you have to now ping it 10 times, you might as well ping it once and call 1,000 people once, and save that information inside of like a JSON file. All right, so that's a tip. This code is not doing that, because I was just testing a couple of things here, but you can definitely write code to do this. And from what I've shown you, you should be able to figure that out. So I'm gonna get maximum, let's just make it 12. Okay, let's make it 12. Okay, so I don't want to overdo this. And I'm going to get 12 results. And then account followers is going to be result data, because you have to get the data object from the response, because the response and a response object has other things, as data, all sorts of things. So I want the data of the response object. And then from there, I'm going to go and I'm going to check if the length is greater than 0, which means it has returned something, because it will be an array. And if it's greater than 0, I'm going to iterate through that array, and I'm going to, if not, the object times ID, not in following. So following here, this following is this list at the top there, which is the list of people that I'm already following. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying that if the ID is not already inside of the following list, right, which means that I haven't already followed this person, okay? So if the ID is not already there, then try. And there's a reason why I'm using try. Try is like the Python equivalent of, being able to catch exceptions, and you don't, and every time you're running a function that has a high potential of creating an exception, you want to run it inside of a try block, because you want to be able to catch an exception and you don't want it to trip your whole program, okay? And it's just good development practice, because if you don't do this, and when you're calling the Twitter API, it could be out of your control. You could have hit the rate limit, it could be something else, you don't know what you're gonna get. So this could potentially throw an exception. You want to catch that exception, and maybe just print something. You could also like write yourself an email to say oops today, so that you can check it, because if you're going to keep this on autopilot, you want to make sure that every time there's a problem, maybe you write yourself an SMS. You can use Twilio. Sometimes I use Twilio to write myself an SMS here to say, you know what, hey Bertha, something went up, or it was up, the function didn't run this morning, we hit an exception, and I'll SMS myself what that exception is. Or send it in an email, and then if I see an email with an exception, I know, okay, something is wrong with my program, because I have so many programs running on autopilot. I gotta know if something is wrong with one of them. Then in this specific case, I'll just print something out to say, trouble following this person, and I'll use X or username, because within this X object, you've got the ID, the username, and the name. So if you look at it, you've got the ID, the name, and the username. So you can print the username, so you know that you couldn't follow that user. Maybe that user can't be followed for whatever reason. Maybe their account is private, or they don't want you to follow them, or I don't know. For whatever reason you couldn't follow them, that's not important, but then at least you have this in a try block, that if you couldn't follow them, you will be able to know that something went wrong. And if already they are in that following list, so that's else of that, it will print for you that you're already following that person, so you can't follow them again. So that's what this code is doing. And then at the end, I'm just going to run this function, follow people. Okay, so that's basically it. All right, so just copy this, and I don't know, I don't think I'll do a git. I won't do a git repo, because this is just one file. For now, for everything I've taught you, this is just one file. All right, so what I'm going to do instead is I'll do a gist, okay, so that I can just write this code for you. So I'll do a gist, and I'll put the gist link in the description below, and then you'll just be able to copy and paste this code, because the only other thing you're gonna have to add is the gist folder. You're gonna have to create the directory, and make sure that you create a file called data, and do all of that in the background. So that's important. So you need to have watched this video to figure out what this is doing, because I get people that find my repo and they didn't watch the video, and then the code doesn't run, for example, something like this, because now they didn't get the path correct, and then they want to write me an email to ask me what's the problem. Watch the video, all right, because I go through this code step by step. If it's running in the video and you code it exactly the way I've coded it in the video, it's gonna run, because I do everything right in front of you. I'm writing this code like I'm going. There's nothing I'm doing in the background that I'm not showing you. So if you actually just write this code as it is, and you follow what I'm saying, and you look at everything I'm describing, you should have no issue running the code. All right, so I'm going to, and that's why I asked you, because the other thing that can go wrong with this Python code is if your keys are not correct, or you didn't get them right. This is why I asked you to test it on Postman first. So if you did this on Postman and this worked well, remember to add your keys on Postman, because you need to add them on Postman. If you click at the top there, all right, there'll be an environment quick look, all right, and you can pick which environment you want to work with. And then I'm not going to click it because I don't want to show these API keys. But if you click on environment quick look over there, it will show you a place where you can add all of these keys. You can add the API key and API secret. And then once you've done that, when you go to the top here under authorization, you need to pick inherit from parent. By default, it will be no auth. So you're going to have to change it to inherit auth. All right. And provided you do this and you put the environment keys in there, and that your keys are the proper approved keys, then you can test this, that this is running properly. Then it means the keys work fine. You've tested that the keys are not the problem. Then you can put the keys inside of the Python code, because if you haven't tested the keys are not a problem, and you put them in the Python code and then your code doesn't run, you're going to be trying to troubleshoot what could be the issue. Now you will know the keys are definitely not the issue, that if something is going wrong here, you will know it's your code, right? Then copy and paste this inside of your virtual environment, all right? So I'm just going to run this code. It's called post.py. No, it's not post.py. It is called follows.py. So I'm just going to, first of all, open the file, make sure everything is exactly the same in here. So I've got the read JSON there, right? JSON, get client, follow people. Okay, so max results over there, I followed 5 people. So I'm going to change this to 10 this time. So I'm going to try and get more, or maybe let's make it 8. No, 8, not 18. All right. So a little bit more than 5. And then everything should be fine. Then it runs that. Okay. So let's save that. And then we can now run this code by just saying python follows.py. All right. Cool. Let's see what happens. Successfully followed origin name, origin Namani, Queen Huma, it followed them successfully. So you'll see it takes a bit of time, because what I also did over here, I added time sleep 5. So if this try is successful, it will sleep for 5 seconds. And that's just so that you have some time in between your requests. Otherwise, the way Python works, you don't, because you're a human being, you take time to think, but code actually doesn't take any time to think. It will have run it to and maybe that is going to end up, you're going to end up being at least sleep for 1 second minimum. But I like to be on the safe side. I'm sleeping for 5 seconds, so it's taking a bit of time, and it's followed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And obviously that's what I asked it to do. And if I go into my Twitter, let us just refresh my profile and check the people that I'm following. These guys here, Ayub, I should have recently just followed them. Okay, there they are. Okay, Emmanuel, over there's Emmanuel. So these followers came directly from the API. So these guys were followed directly by the Twitter API. So this is how you can do it, guys. And if you follow people, they will follow you back, and you will hopefully grow your Twitter account. So I've tested today. I followed like 20 people. I want to get at least 2 people to follow me back, because I'm not quite sure, because I've never done this before using the API. I don't know if Twitter actually sends a notification to the person, because the important thing is the notification Twitter sends, that the person gets a notification that says, oh, Bani is following you, and then they see that notification, then they can choose to follow back. Sometimes when Twitter sees you're abusing the following thing, it doesn't notify people when you follow them. And you want to follow people and they don't get notifications, and it actually just defeats the purpose of following them. So I don't know. It's possible that with the API, the notification doesn't go through, and then it defeats the purpose of doing this. Okay, this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to pause it here. And next week, I'm going to show you the other parts of the API. We're going to go through how to do searching for content online. I've actually already written the code, and I was going to do it, but I think the video is too long, so I'll do it next week. So you can search for specific things, like I'm doing, my business is about, CRM and stuff, so I want to be able to search for those kind of things on the internet, so that I can retweet them, or I can find out if people are asking for recommendations, and I can generate leads for my business. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll also show you how to actually specifically just like produce content for your own Twitter, like to tweet stuff, like tweet images, tweet posts, which also I will do next week. Maybe if I don't do it next week, I'll do it the week after. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe so that you get the notification when I release the video next week. And I'll see you guys, I'll see you next time.